Welcome to IG World Network, coming live to you from Johannesburg, South Africa. My name is Mandela Mini, if you have forgotten who I am. We've been covering stories around African continent, and the focus in this month of August, we are in South Africa. We are focusing mainly on the South African stories. But without wasting too much of your time, we are looking at serious stories that have come out in South Africa in terms of investigation, forensic investigation in different agencies of the states in South Africa. But I'm not going to waste too much of your time. Let me invite my guest, Wolf. Bonjour, Wolf.
Bonjour, monsieur. Comment allez-vous?
Comment allez-vous?
Okay.
Welcome to IG World Network.
Well, I thank you for that. And obviously I thank Mr. Van Root for that, whom I've met sometime in the past.
Yes, yes. Now, I just gave just a brief intro in terms of the stories that we are looking at, that we are focusing on here in South Africa in particular. But we wanted to just to make sure that, you know, whoever comes to our viewers and share the story, you know, there's credibility in terms of what the person is bringing into us and the viewers. But as an intro, you know, about you, if you may just, you know, just officially introduce yourself. Who is Wolf?
All right. My actual name is Eugene, but I had received this nickname Wolf, Lelou in French. Many years ago, I took an oath, more than 42 years ago, Servamus et Servimus, that I will protect and serve. I was also co-joined, well, it was a cooperation bureau between SADF and SAP, went through extensive training. And it was a COVID unit. I ended up on a normal unit, but my task mainly was to identify potential people for the COVID unit. Remember, it was apartheid, it was war, and it was basically secret service. After the war, I went over to detective branch. I did my advanced course in apparel, 12 course. 15, that was course 15, correct, yeah, of 1991. And after that, I investigated unnatural death and murder, which is not a very nice job, for many years. I left the force, but I never stopped investigating. I investigated for many different entities, mainly intelligence, and obviously criminal investigations. I still do work for certain state entities. I guess they'll not be too pleased with me for mentioning that, but what I have to tell the viewers today and you is of extreme importance to fill on Mr. Root. For instance, 2015, I was tasked by intelligence to find the head of the Pennington gang. Now, there was a rugby player in Pennington that was murdered in 2012, and the police couldn't find the head. After 4 days, now I have a huge network. Criminals under the Nongoloza in Kilokojane, the Big Five. I have an international network of people. And at Qabane, at the Shaw's house, I located Lushaba. And we went in with taxis because you can't go in with a police car.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Just before you get into the matters that you've investigated, I just wanted to link your background for the sake of our viewers so that they will understand, you know, what gives you an authority to speak about the matters that you've investigated. You are saying you were in the military, you were in the special force, you were in the intelligence, you are still serving in some intelligence?
Yeah, well, I'm too old to be a cop now.
Yeah.
But now my predilection is still there.
Yeah.
I must mention I am not a recce. I do not have an operator badge number.
Okay.
But it was a covert unit. But let's get back to Lushaba. I'll mention one or two that people can verify. So this rugby player was murdered. That's all that I knew.
The rugby player was murdered where?
Pennington in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay. Pennington is in the south of KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah, it's down from Durban, down towards the lower south coast.
Okay. The rugby player gets murdered how?
I don't even know. They just said I must find the head, Lushaba. I located him. There was a shootout. Lushaba was wounded fatally. They closed down 19 murders, I believe, on that one, and a lot of other robberies. Ezekiel Wedi murder I solved end of last year, the shotgun murder in Ibadin, and many, many more other things. Some of it I cannot reveal due to the sensitivity of the matters. But let's go now further. All right, I met Mr. Root basically via my network. By the way, I have a personal thing with Standard Bank and Strauss Daily. I'll speak about that lastly.
Okay.
Because I feel the others are more important. But I was for 2 years in a wheelchair. I sustained many injuries during my service. I served 2 governments. Remember, Sir Farmers, it's Sir Femurs. I protect that I will serve and protect regardless of which government comes to power. That's very important to remember. All right, so I started along with Mr. Root. I'm an agent for the Hornets, intelligence as well as investigations. And that he spoke about fine metals with Karolambos Christodoulou and so forth. I looked at the case file and I saw that Sergeant Kwezi, in, I think, 2018, came into the court with the prosecutor, Mrs. Duplessis, and he said to her that Hoeksema, the main witness, that was supposed to now be in charge of fine metals, died 2 years ago in a car accident. And I found that rather odd because I was a detective for many years in the police. Now, if your main witness ends up dead, sorry to say, you're happy about it because now you can close the docket down. You write your investigating officer statement, your affidavit, hand it in to the prosecutor, and I mean, the case will be
closed.
It's closed, you know, because there's no witness any longer. So I started looking for a culpable homicide case that happened during that time, and I couldn't find any. Then I contacted some of my, let's say, contacts, if there was maybe an inquest into an unnatural death. Then there will be a J56 issue. It's called a J56 at the State Mortuary. Nevertheless, nothing there. Then I found the person who was arrested on the original case that Mr. Root talked about. Remember, then I didn't know him. Then I was busy with the state security case. It was highly, highly sensitive. It's only, I'm 9 months out of hospital now, by the way, and I can walk again. So a witness came and said, no, that Hoeksema didn't die in a car crash. On the yard of fine metals, she was rammed with a forklift into a container. And that's murder. Murder is the malicious and intentional taking of a human life. I just want to explain to viewers so they can understand. Let's leave the Latin phrases out, dolus determinatus, indeterminatus, and those. For a crime to stand, it needs 5 pillars: maliciousness, an intent to be malicious. There must be an act with the intent to be malicious. The act must be volatile from your own will, and there must be a victim. But the act can also be an omission, a failure to act. Victim can also be potential victim. All right, so I drafted up, I do my own dockets. Because in the affidavit, there must be who, what, when, where, why, and how. The police write a little affidavit like that, and that's not enough.
Okay. I want you to just pause on that one because I would like our producer to assist our viewers, because they always have the struggle when they go to the police station and try and lodge a complaint to say that whatever that they put down there, it was not sufficient. And the officer that maybe would have been assisting them did not also assist them enough. If you may start to just break them down slowly to say the first one, your matter must demonstrate these following aspects when we are jotting them down in order for them to be able to stand in the court of law.
Yes. Now, that's, I guess, where the detective comes in. Remember your last line before you write the oath. You never write, "This is all I wish to declare." You write provisionally, "This is all I wish to declare." In other words, until some other word. It gives you the right to add. You can anyway, you can add to it. But, you know, people go to a police station, then they're chased away. Not chased away, no, you don't have a case. There's National Instruction 3 of 2011. They may not refuse you unless you smell of liquor. If that cop thinks there's no case, he must register it. It's a charge office. It's not a court. It's where you lay a charge.
Okay.
The word
so
says it.
what must they have? Like you were saying, there are 6 elements that your story that we are penning down must have. You said 1, there must be an intent.
Yeah, firstly, maliciousness. It must be unlawful.
Okay.
All right, must be unlawful.
That's the first one.
But now, when we go to like, unlawfulness, secondly, there must be an act.
There must be an act.
Okay, and well, actually intent.
Yeah, or intent.
An act with the intent to be unlawful, and that act must be volatile, and there must be a victim or potential victims.
Okay.
All right, so now, when we go to laws like PRECA, it's Act 12 of 2004, Prevention of and Combating of Corrupt Activities. POCA, Prevention of Organized Crime, Act 121 of 1989. Very few cops, or bulking. If you go with normal fraud, they understand it. The malicious and intentional misrepresentation, whereby there's prejudice on someone or potential prejudice on others. Potential. So here an omission comes in. Remember the definition of crime when you open the book of criminal law. A crime is an act or omission that constitutes an offense, is punishable by law, may be prosecuted by the state. But still, if you have a case, that police officer, it's a charge officer, you must take your charge, they must file it on the CAS system, they must send you an SMS, the branch commander from the detective branch, remember I was a detective myself for many, many years, a police detective, will view this case. If that branch commander, okay, then he will book it out to a relevant department or a person, a specific detective. But if he says, all right, this case doesn't seem as if there's got all 5 elements in, or it may be a civil case, it must still be registered. All right, so then he can write his IO statement, his investigating officer statement, stating, and the investigation diary, you will write to the detective who's booking it out, take this docket to court so that the prosecutor can decide. Only the prosecutor can tell nolle prosecute or proceed to prosecute.
Okay.
You understand?
No,
so it's National
it's clear
Instruction
now.
3 of 2011,
Yeah.
unless you smell of liquor, obviously.
Yeah.
And a policeman cannot tell you, listen, your case happened in Margate, you can't open it here. They must, National Instruction 3 says they must take it.
They must take it.
All right, so now I want to go to that thing with, let's see where it is now. I'll get back to Standard Bank and Strauss Daily a bit later. All right, I saw now, okay, now, Sergeant Kwesi did not close his docket down. Yeah. That bothered me. Now, that's where I'm of assistance to Mr. Rood because of my knowledge of policing. So
the case is open, but he doesn't close it down, but everything is just left idling.
Yeah, some are being closed down.
Okay.
Nolly prosecute, decline to prosecute,
Yes.
or undetected. I've
Yeah.
seen dockets undetected. Then, if you write an affidavit, the first information of crime, the FIOC, and you mention a name in it, an affidavit must be obtained from that person. That's protocol. That's basic procedure. So I drafted up a docket. I write the dockets myself. I type the whole affidavit out with who, what, when, where, why, and how. And I even write up the investigation diary. I've got like a template for the police where they must attest the docket right at the back. So mine's with clips, and I make it nice. And I know the cops are busy, and by the way, they are very good cops. Very, very good cops.
That's good to
and
know.
Our legal system is one of the best in the world. Law, our legal system is very good. But there's a problem in between. That we found out now with a lot of investigation. So I drafted up this docket. And the first one was PRECA, Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities in the Road Act 12, 2004. And I put the amount as R1 billion because that's actually more, should be more, but if it goes more than that, it must go to High Court. Now we don't want that. So, and murder. Because it's in, Hoeksema. Where's Hoeksema? He didn't have a wife, didn't have children. So I was with Mr. Root in Durban and went to the police station. They tested it, everything fine. Very potent cop that helped us there. It was a man of African descent, a warrant officer. So I drove to Port Shepstone because Mr. Root stayed then in Durban North. Went to Port Shepstone and gave the docket in there. Easy, the constable was very happy. He just has to sign there and attest it, It was about 15 minutes drive back home. I live about 25 minutes away if you drive normal speed. Colonel Kumalo phoned me. He said there's no case. I explained National Instruction 3 of 2011 to him. He still argued with me. He said there's no case. I said to him, just register the docket, let it go through the process, and the prosecutor will decide. He said to me, where's the corpse? I thought he was joking. Because whose job is it to find it? I can shadow the case. Okay, I can also solve cases. Section 42 of the Procedure Act, that's Act 51 of 1977, gives any civilian the right to a civilian arrest on a Schedule 1 crime. Not for drinking in public and that type of thing. Nevertheless, I said to him, that's why there's a case open. I don't know where the corpse is. If somebody broke into your house, where are the people that broke into your house? Does that make sense to you?
No.
It's not good. Then I found out that Colonel Kumalo took the specific docket. I'm talking about now in May, longer ago, about 4 months now, to the senior prosecutor, Mr. Stander, without registering it. They didn't go through the protocol or the channels that it should go. Up to today, Mr. Root never received a case number. No IO has spoken. Investigating officer contacted him.
So your allegation there is that the Mr. Kumalo, who is the investigating, Colonel Kumalo, who is the investigating officer, does not record the case or the file that you've brought for him to run. He still believes that there's no case in this docket that you've brought.
It seems highly irregular. It seems irregular. I like wordplay,
Yeah.
I don't want to accuse if I don't know. Maybe he registered it, but there was no case number sent through to Mr. Rowe. And there are many cases like that. Later, lastly, when I talk about the Standard Bank one, I will tell you a thing there. All right. So that's one problem. Sometimes you get. Okay, let's look at corruption. Sometimes somebody will seem corrupt because the person is not competent, hasn't got enough knowledge. of his subject. Then you have your person that is corrupt and he knows his subject. Then you have a line of corruption which we call organized crime. At this stage, what we have uncovered is definitely organized crime. Wow. I won't say everybody's corrupt, but we are still uncovering a lot of things.
Now, if you say you've uncovered or you've discovered organized crime, are you referring from the investigating officers to the...
No, it's in the top structure.
Or to the top structure?
Top structure, yeah, definitely. As I've said, I know many, many good cops. I mean, I know good captains. I know good colonels. There was a colonel that in Aberdeen, there's a case. It's still running, so I don't want to reveal too much, of old people being abused. The warrant officer went to the colonel. He's the commanding officer. And he said, the colonel said there's no law that protects old people. It's Act 13 of 2006. It's called the Older Persons Act. Any woman older than 60, man older than 65 is protected against any abuse, whether emotionally, psychologically, sexually, financially. All right. I just want to carry on. I don't want to bore people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get into the case now. The next case that
the next case is a very, very strong. I'm still busy investigating here. It's about Mr.
You started the case, investigating it when?
No, this is a different one.
I'm saying this one.
This one was one of the complainants that contacted Hornets.
Okay.
All right, I did a certain job for a certain entity. I was the secret agent that did the job. So I know how dirty Secret Service is. It's very dirty. It's a dirty world, a dirty place, and sometimes it's necessary. Sorry to say. I mean, to save society, it's about societies, you know. It's about division, dividing people. That's why you believe you're a black man. You're not, you're brown. I'm not white, I'm pink. Muntu kabantu. Now, we are the same race, Homo sapiens. We're just different cultures. So this division is a problem. Now, this man, Mr. Kiwi, this is a very, very sad story. Mr. Martin Kiwi speaks Xhosa better than any Xhosa. He grew up with Xhosas. Now, he's got no affiliation with any right-winger organization or anything whatsoever. Zero. I'm still investigating. I'm now busy actually trying to help that whole Xhosa tribe that's been deprived of their rights because Mr. Kiwi wanted to look after them for the rest of their life. Because they get a lease of 100 years or whatever. And he's a very passionate person. He doesn't see different cultures. He understands the Xhosa culture, I think, better than what I understand Afrikaans culture. You know? So he's got earth moving, that's his business. And he had a farm and he was deprived of his farm. But that I'll still investigate that. But nevertheless, from Port Edward, he was drawn over to Bloemfontein for earth moving. Now, how many people are there that can do the job for cheaper because he must still move his equipment there? It's very strange because he was moved over there. Then Mr. Kiwi met up with Gustav Miller, and people are more on the right-winger side. There's an autopsy report. Sorry, I don't want to see. Okay, yeah, here it is. And these people were talking war. Now, war...
They were talking war against who?
They are pink, let's call it Caucasian.
Yes.
Against African.
Wow, okay.
But there were only 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I've got the High Court files at home. And Mr. Kiwi still said to them, they must stop talking nonsense. Then suddenly Mr. Kiwi was arrested by state security. And it was alleged that he had a G6 cannon. Now that's 47 tons. Okay? He had a G6 cannon. I don't know where he would hide such a thing. The expert in the High Court files, it's our military expert, said it's a 150 millimeter. I'm not artillery, and I know it's a 155 millimeter. Okay? You can't hide that thing easily. And he apparently had a mortar, 120 mm mortar. Take about 5 people to run that thing. And nevertheless, he was held as awaiting trial for months. Then they sent him to a mental institution.
Wow.
Now, there are 3 documents from psychiatrists in it, because it's a state president patient, it's called it like that. And if a man has prostate cancer, then 5 doctors, it's good if they have their prognosis and they share it with one another to prove or see what's happening with the person. But these 3 psychiatrists were supposed to be independent, but it looks like a replica of each of them. And suddenly Mr. Kiwi was released, free. His lawyer told him, because remember now, you can put in a claim of millions against the Minister of Law and Order, but you must say you're going to do it within 6 months, and after 3 years it expires. His lawyer said he must lay low, and if they arrest him for as much as a parking ticket, he will be arrested again. So I have a feeling the lawyer, I have a feeling, is involved here. I just want to see here, yeah, that's it. Okay. Okay, with this, I want to tell the people in his area, because now he's struggling to find work. People are talking about him.
He's out of prison now?
He's free. It's a free man. There's nothing on him. Okay. But he cannot help his Xhosa people. So I want to tell the people of South Africa that Mr. Kiwi is free. He did nothing wrong. I just want to say, oh yeah, with this I wish to clear the good name of Mr. Kiwi. Now, I'm still busy investigating his case because I want to find out the foul play of why, because there's something going on there that's not kosher. I know Secret Service. I know the intelligence world. Now, the Xhosa family of Mr. Kiwi, including Mr. Kiwi, has been deprived of their constitutional rights long before this arrest incident in relation to the Human Rights Act 39(1) and 27(1), as well as other sections of the specific act. I feel this needs to be rectified as well. No matter how long ago said incidents occurred, this could very well be a solid lead onto the matters of Mr. Kiwi's unlawful arrest and detention. By the way, I wrote this on Sunday. I had death threats. They said I would not reach this interview too. Then the lady that you interviewed first, she phoned me and she heard the same story, and she said I must put as much as possible on file, so if I don't make it, it can still be published.
Now, who made those death threats?
I wish I knew. Because it's private numbers.
Or private numbers, they came through to you.
I'm not too worried about threats. I worry about the people who don't threaten.
No, because, I mean, Mr. Kiri is still alive.
Yeah.
Is that...
It's not about him. It's about, we are uncovering serious things here. I'm talking serious. A lot of people are going to be arrested soon. Do you know that if all right, let's take the equality law. It's constitutional law, 4 of 2000. Everyone stands equal before the law.
That's correct.
From the hobo under the bridge to the state president. And anybody can be arrested if you transgress the law.
Yes.
Now, if the cases that I've opened, if there's bona fide evidence in it, and the detective not prosecute along with the state attorney, the prosecutor, I will personally charge them with aiding and abetting in a crime, defeating the ends of justice. You can
Because
do
it is a criminal offense.
Whether it's a cop, whether it's a brigadier, a general, a president, a minister, a hobo, it doesn't matter. Remember, one may not discriminate unless there are grounds. Let's look at Act 60 of 2000, the firearm law. You can ask any person, may you point a gun at someone?
No.
No, you may, if there are grounds. Whether it's self-defense or private defense. So if there are grounds, our legal system is very, very flexible. All right, so with this, I clear the name of Mr. Martin Kiwi.
Okay.
The next one is that I want to touch upon is a very, very sad story. Here's the autopsy report. That's a J56. Up to that pink one is the whole autopsy report. All right. His name is Mr. Lawrence Erasmus.
Lawrence
Erasmus,
Erasmus.
All right. So, firstly, incompetency destroyed the lives of many people.
Firstly,
And Mr. Kiwi, and this is the next one I'm talking about.
yeah. Firstly, who is Mr. Lawrence Erasmus?
Just an ordinary person.
Ordinary person.
He was a businessman, and his son, it is Mashadadorp. Just after the toll gate, his son was working on the yellow lines. They were working, I don't even know what they did there, but they were working. And there was a driver that accelerated and hit his son. It's also Lawrence Erasmus. Their birthdays on the same day, the father and son. They were very close. It threw his son in front of a truck full of metal, and the truck slammed on brakes on top of him, so left pieces of him scattered all over the road. I investigated those things for many years, because this I can talk about, because I specialized in inquest and a natural death. All right, before I carry on with this now, remember those 5 elements. Now, a case of culpable homicide was opened, case 38 of 9/2015, Mashadadorp. Culpable homicide is a crime of negligence. But this was gross negligence, supreme, extreme. Now, in other words, it's unlawful, it's malicious, but there's not intent, because there's negligence. But there is something, intent with the knowledge of possibility.
Yeah.
So, if I take my gun and I fire a shot into the bush, dog, or anywhere where I can't see, to show you how nice my gun is working, is there a chance that I may hit somebody?
There is.
No, if we ask 1,000 people, they will say yes, there's a chance. So, if the court would have gone through with this, if the detective is worth his while, he can ask the court to be postponed, and the magistrate must issue a 205 to get human science research to do a survey among 1,000 people. If I accelerate with that speed on the yellow lines while I see there are people working, is there a chance that I may cause grievous bodily harm or death? It will be interesting to see what will happen there. So now, Mr. Lawrence Erasmus, after that, went through severe stress. All right, I retrieved all relevant files and found that the original case was changed to a mere inquest. There's the inquest number.
Which was investigated as well. You can see.
Yeah, here's a whole autopsy report. By the way, my woman, I guess I'm rather say I'm a man. I don't look for trouble with women, you know. She doesn't like my job very much, because I was wounded many, many times. Like I said, I was 2 years in a wheelchair, 9 months out of work, out of hospital, now out of work. Sorry, I'm not the brightest spark in the furnace. Sometimes I make a couple of mistakes, but nevertheless, so here's the whole autopsy report. It's very long and lengthy, but I want to get back to her now. She doesn't like me doing this line of work. I was shot before. I was shot. I was stabbed. And death threats. They tried to kill me at my house in Aberdeen. No, let's leave it there, but you must. I didn't. Anyway, all right, so normally I ask Tanya to read through my stuff because, you know, I make a lot of errors. Because I type, she types like that. So I will type, and when I look up, and then for a whole page, the thing was in a different spot, you know. So I decided not to show this to her because it's really gruesome. And the affidavit that Mr. Lawrence Erasmus put in here. I returned, I think I went to the shop. When I came back, I couldn't find Tanya. She was in my office reading the autopsy report and Mr. Lawrence Erasmus's affidavit. And she was crying. I said to her, do you still think I must stop working? She said no. All right, so now, this inquest went via Warrant Officer Maria, a female, she's a female warrant officer, I think, yeah. On 8 September 2016, okay, via Detective Warrant was, okay. Okay, it was sent to the NPA via the Detective Warrant Officer Maria from Asharador. Nothing happened. The case stopped there. Here's an autopsy report. When I read through this, I did many autopsies, I did many inquests. There's no chance. I'm telling you, there's no chance that the driver of that specific vehicle must be charged. Now, I feel, I wrote here my affidavit, the NPA will have to answer to this since, when viewing the files, a case of culpable homicide is bona fide here, definitely. And I also said that one can actually push it for murder with the intent of the knowledge of possibility. I spoke about human science researcher, as I told you now. Mr. Lawrence Erasmus and his family is still and for life devastated by this event of either pathetic incompetence or total corruption. Yeah. It cannot be something else because if I had this case, I would have charged the driver for murder. All right. All right, so I attach this. The NPA as well as SAPS Mashadador will have to answer to this question. They will be charged accordingly.
Yeah, so you're charging them as the officers of yourself?
In their private capacity.
Oh, in the private
capacity.
Okay.
I'm not one for going for billions and billions of rand. I got this right and this wrong. Now, if you do target shooting, you either hit the target or you miss it. A miss is as good as a mile, they say. If you miss it by a centimeter, it's the same as missing it by a kilometer. If you hit the target, you hit it or you miss it. There's no gray area. So, oh yeah, on page 21 of the autopsy report, it clearly states that the investigation officer was absent.
Oh.
All right, the investigation officer was absent. The body weighing scales were not working properly. That I can understand. Technologies can break. Now, in the detective branch, in the SAPS, back SAP and SAPS, if you go on leave, let's say you're off sick, your dockets must go to another detective. The branch commander must do that to ensure that the complainants will receive the necessary attention. All right, the last one before I go to Standard Bank and Strauss Daily, just to prove to you that a couple of months ago, I just want to get away from the autopsy report, Oops. Okay. Never mind. I'll put it in there. Okay, there's another one. It's Mr. T.N.E. Chamberlain. He's a young man. All right, he went to, this is actually, okay, it's over 100,000, so it's Brekker. If it's over 100,000 rand of fraud, it's a DPCI matter, not a normal detective matter. Okay, firstly, here I said, I must accordingly vouch for ordinary detectives and police officers. When I was a detective, the standing orders said that a detective may only have 15 dockets on hand and not more. They're sitting now with heaps like that. The police could solve that problem. Back in the day, I joined as a passion, not for money. I mean, we didn't really get much, you know. Now, if the police want to solve that, why don't they tell every detective, listen, if you solve a case, you get a bonus? You'll see. I mean, and the government won't lose any money because that money will be circulated again. And anyway, it's fractional currency. There's no substance underneath it anyway. That we can talk about some other day, about fractional currency and the IFC and the IMF and all those things. All right. As I say, I work many places. All right. So I must vouch for detectives. Because now I'm sitting with 300 dockets on hand. Another thing is, if a detective sends his docket to court, he must go along with the docket. Because that prosecutor is sitting there with a heap of dockets, and they're going to postpone, they're going to give the accused bail, and then they will postpone the case indefinitely by being absent and having a doctor's note. So a J50 will be issued for his arrest. Get there to arrest him. No, I was sick, I'm sorry. You know? Now, if that happens the third time, or the second time, or the third, I suggest to any magistrate or high court judge to issue a tour of fire so that that person that now sick must go to an independent, another doctor, a district surgeon or someone. And if that doctor says, no, it's not true, this person is not sick, they can charge that other doctor also, and then they can actually deny bail.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Mr. Chamberlain. He went to, I just want to find it now, Group 1 Mahindra in Midrand. And he purchased this is not long ago. I'll give you the case number now. I think I have it in here. Anyway, he purchased a Mahindra vehicle there. A demo model. They told him it's a demo model. Okay, before I go further, Judge van Nieuwenhuizen sat in the Supreme Court, North Gauteng, the High Court. Over 100 years of judgment, it was found that one misrepresentation equals fraud equals crime. Only one. If there's a misrepresentation, there's fraud. All right. So it was a demo model. So he bought a demo model. Shortly after that, the demo model broke down. The dealership refused to assist him because they said the tracker in the vehicle showed that he was braking too hard, and that's why it broke down. Tracker in the vehicle. Have you heard of the Papaya Act 2013? Now they've been watching his every move. What about his privacy? So they broke that law. And on top of that, we found out it wasn't a demo vehicle. They used it as a delivery vehicle. Misrepresentation, fraud, crime. So I typed his affidavit for him. Then he went to SAPS Midrand. And the cops refused to take his case. National Instruction 3 of 2011, remember? They refused. They said it's a civil case. They can't say it's civil. The prosecutor must say that. Anyway, it's not civil. I was a cop when that guy that stood there was still in primary school, okay? So Mr. Chamberlain gave the phone to him, and I spoke with the warrant officer. I said to him, National Instruction 3 of 2011. He said, no, this is civil. He'll wait for the detective. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the names or the name of this detective. when Mr. Chamberlain, Tierney Chamberlain went back, the detective gave one look and said, there's definitely a case. But up to now, no investigation officer ever went to see Mr. Chamberlain. He said, you heard nothing. You received the CAS number, CAS 588 of 7 of 2003, in other words, of July. And for the first time, Mr. Tierney Chamberlain sent me the SMS.
The
forwarded
message,
to me. They said Constable Modupo will investigate your case. I thought, well, that's a new one, because they never do that. They normally just send the case number. So that's at least an upgrade, but nobody came to see him. Remember, the detective can only work with what he has, not what he doesn't have. And the motto of a detective, by the way, you believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see. That's very, very important. All right. Yes, I can add something else. Yeah. Remember the assassination of Clute Murray and Thomas Murray?
Thomas Murray, yes.
Yeah.
That story.
It's Clute Murray, the father, he was a liquidator, and his son, Thomas.
His son, yes.
I found some links between that, and remember the Karolambos Christodoulou thing that Johan was talking about? So I wrote information regarding the assassination of Clute Murray and Thomas Murray. I'll give you a copy, you can keep it. A bit old. Let me see if I didn't make any notes that's important. All right, now now Clute Murray was, okay, now firstly, it was reported on the news, or in the news, that the motive for the murder was assassination. Now, what's the motive of the motive? What was the motive of the assassination? So I say detective must work with what he has, not what he hasn't. So I found lines between that and Brett Kepler, the assassination of Brett Kepler, back in 2005. Same area, same modus operandi, guys on a motorbike so they can get away in the traffic. You know, I think for 4 weeks I tried to get hold of the investigation officer. That would be DPCI, would be
Yes.
I even phoned that crime stop line. They took my details because you'll see at the end of it, I wrote Agent X. I didn't put my name, but there I say I may be contacted at that number, Wolf. I just gave my nickname, but Agent X at the bottom. It's an info file, it's not a docket. It was the 14th of May, 2023. A month later, nobody contacted me. So I contacted General Lebeya, Godfrey Lebeya.
Yes.
And I actually took photos with my cell phone, on WhatsApp. And I send him the photo. I don't say that's the answer. I don't say this is the solution to the assassination. But at least there's a clue. There's a line of events that one can follow. If something goes up, it must come down. It's something to work on. Godfrey Lebeya, the general, did send hands like that. I give him credit. At least he replied in some way. But nothing else happened. I'm talking about a serious murder here, as assassination. No one ever contacted me to find out how did I get to those conclusions. Because they did good research there.
Because this assassination is still being investigated according to...
A murder is a color crime.
Yeah.
It will never lapse.
Yeah.
It must be reopened every 5 years and reinvestigated. Now there was also an attack on another advocate. They shot a grouping like that from a motorbike in motion, so that guy must be able to shoot. This is professionals. These are professional assassins. There are other cases. I won't mention it. I don't want to go into it now, but there's my investigation book. I've got cases here. I know I don't even have to open that. It is like the Madlala murders. But it was Prince Madlala, Tsunilise Madlala. They were assassinated. A Z-88 found on Prince's lap that they didn't shoot the two in the back. They only shot the two Matlalas, you know. And I asked, did LCRC take fingerprints from the magazine? Because if you load, all your fingerprints are on the mag. Because fingerprints on the outside, anybody could have touched it, so that's not bona fide, you know. Anyway, in my info file, and later on I even wrote an affidavit that actually revealed me being an agent. I gave the names of Sigora. Nobody ever knew about Sigora. S-G-O-R-A, Assassination of Killers. And I found that the murderer, Sigora, sidetracked the police with motive. Because they thought it was about the Zama Zama, the mining there.
Yes.
I found it's something else which I don't want to talk about now, otherwise someone's going to see it and they're going to know what I'm thinking and they're going to get away. And they're not going to get away with this one. All right, let's go now, lastly.
Yeah.
Any questions about it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. There are things that I may not talk to you about. I wish I could. I wish I could. That I reported also to General Abaya.
Yes.
And to other officials. Oh yeah, I must tell you this one. By the way, sorry, about just before I went to hospital, I was already walking slightly with a limp. There's a specific high-profile secret case. I'll tell you basically what it is. Weapons coming into our country. RPG-7s, RPG-2. I only saw one RPG-2 in my life. It's just a little one. I only saw one years ago in the border. AK-47, AKMS, PPSH, SKS, F1 grenades, RGD-5, UPROM, POMZ, name it, it's coming into our country. I have in my possession, due to my international network, the smuggling routes coming into our country and going out of our country. And there are children going out of our country, by the way. Now,
human trafficking, that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, but what's above human trafficking? It's money. Body organ harvesting, also that. I have videos in my possession that I won't even show the toughest person. It's simply sickening. So this network of mine gave me all this information. I think that's rather serious. Because I lose track of these weapons, Duku Duku, Jusine area, poo, I don't know where they're going. And I wanted to give it over to state security. Two, let's call them handlers. Came down at length, at Captain Anker's, the Southport, interrogated me for 4 hours about my past, my alleged involvement in the CCB, the Civil Corporation Bureau during the apartheid years. My alleged involvement in mercenary work. But they asked me, have I ever been out of the country? The guy asked me, have I ever been out of the country without any papers? I said, yes. He got excited. He said, when and where? I said, in the 80s, Southwest Africa and Angola. You know? I left the country during 2012 legally. So in other words, there's a problem. We're sitting with a problem with, and I know why. I know why they do that.
Yeah.
When state security, there's no English equivalent to veiligheidspolisie. That was the word. When that became CI, crime intelligence, there was a change of mandate. All right, I don't want to go too deep into that because it involves state and everything, but that was very strange. And one of them came to my veranda not too long ago. I was sitting on my veranda, and he wasn't horrible or anything. He was friendly, but he threatened me.
Okay.
And the definition of terrorism is the malicious use of violence and or intimidation, especially against civilians with political aims. Not state, political aims. So, Act 33 of 2004, the Poktatara, is a protection of constitutional democracy against terrorism and related acts. It's an acronym, all right. Yeah. Section 4 speaks 3 times about
the protection of
using of violence and so on a person.
Yeah, okay.
So he transgressed the Poctatara himself to a certain extent, but if they ever do that again, I will arrest that person immediately on Act 17 of 2011. That's a harassment act.
Okay. Okay. Now, these cases that you've mentioned, affidavits have been deposed, and investigations are ongoing. But now your concern is that they are not moving.
It seems to be irregular. Therefore, appears to be fraudulent. Appears to be corruption. It appears to be.
So it's not about the matters that they are weak, like your affidavits, your investigations that you've done. It's not the issue that they might be weak, but the big issue here is that there's no will in terms of prosecuting on these matters.
They were, some go through, I must say honestly, especially in criminal court. I mean, in 2015 also, a wonderful warrant officer, I'll just give his nickname, Mosi. Unfortunately, was transferred. We did great jobs together because he used to give me info file. Please go investigate. Then I do the whole investigation for him. I make the arrest and hand him over to him. He's from intelligence, by the way. I arrested a certain man, Barnard. He's a 26 in Kilokojaan. He stabbed another. He's a Umlungu, in other words, a Caucasian. He stabbed another pink person 47 times. All right. I tracked him down. He cooperated. I arrested him. He went to prison for 21 years. On 7 years, he applied for parole, and I said I had no objection. So he at least went to prison. So that's why I say everybody's not corrupt. But there seems to be a very big, no, not seem, no. Sorry, I must say it as it is. There's a very, very big problem among the top structure of the police.
So the top structure of the police are the ones that are causing all this chaos that is happening in this country. It's not from the main,
I won't say it's all of them.
Yeah.
But if we take a chain is as strong as the weakest link. If there's one weak link, that chain is rendered useless. A balloon will burst at the weakest spot when you inflate it, you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
So if we have just 3 or 4 people in high places that are greedy or corrupt for power, I don't actually care why they do corruption. There's definitely corruption.
Okay.
Right.
Now, let's come to your personal matter now.
The bank.
That you mentioned with the bank.
All right. I told you I felt crippled. I was first on crutches. One day, I have many injuries. I've got metal from here right up to there. And many others. I could not move this hand. I can now at least use my arm, but it's very weak. So I felt crippled, and I purchased this home via Standard Bank, 2022. And it was COVID. I couldn't work. I only get money on success. When I have success, when I arrest somebody, I get money, and I wait long for that money. And they don't give much. I don't get much. I think you'll fall on your back if you know how much they pay me for solving a murder. It's next, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
So I phoned Standard Bank because I was either on crutches or in a wheelchair. Most of the time in a wheelchair the last year or so. And I spoke to her. I pity I didn't keep that recording. I explained to her it's COVID. I'm crippled. And she said, there's no problem, they understand. Just make a payment. So I made payments. Next move, the sheriff came.
Whilst you are making payments?
Yeah, but some months I did skip.
Yeah.
I did. I had no choice. I must live, I must eat. I sincerely thought that people in banks may have empathy and understanding with people. And Strauss Daily, when they phoned me, they were not very friendly. They were horrible with me. And fortunately, I managed to do a certain job out of my wheelchair due to my network. And at once I paid 70,000 Rand into my bond account. After doing a job from my wheelchair with the WhatsApp calls, with my network, they had to do something in Mozambique. I don't want to go there. Anyway, they proceeded. Okay, I'm 9 months out of hospital now. This leg slightly shorter than this one, but I don't mind. This boot is built up on the inside, so it's normal. Just when I wear tackies, then it looks like I'm picking up rocks when I walk, so the dogs won't bite me. You know? So I'm lucky there. Then they wanted to put my house on auction. Scottburgh Sheriff Office. But prior to that, okay, I was working for the Hornets already, or with the Hornets, now for a long time already. And as well as certain parts of state. I found that there was a life insurance taken out to my name, but I couldn't remember taking that out. I can remember them, I could remember vaguely something. So I saw it started in 2012 on 400 Rand a month, and it ended now a couple of months ago on almost 6,000 Rand a month.
Wow.
So I sent them a message, Strauss Daily and Standard Bank. Please send me the documents where I signed. Where I signed and where my wife signed, because we married in community of property. And obviously the guy that sold the policy, he must also sign it. They sent me a blank document. And then they started postponing, ignoring. Until I just sent a message, PRECA, Act 12 of 2004, POCA, Act 121 of 1998. POCA is your Prevention of Organized Crime Act. And they refunded me, which is an admission of guilt. So I've opened cases against not Standard Bank, not Strauss Daily, the people that worked with it, in their private capacities. Then someone...
Who were executing that? Who were actually working?
Yeah. Oh, okay. In other words, I cited them as suspects.
Okay.
Then I got another letter from the sheriff. My house is going on auction. And Mr. Johan Rood and I went, drew up a document that if they sell that house, remember the case I made that I opened was CAS 131 of 5, 2023, Aberdeen, PRECA, also Act 12 of 2004. So we warned the sheriff. At first they didn't want to sign, but at last they had to sign, they had to. That if they sell the house, they are aiding and abetting in a crime. No, they didn't. If somebody wants to buy the house, tell them they're going to lose money here because there will be severe court cases coming. They sold my house. So I opened a case at Scottburgh, CAS 206 of 7, 2023, aiding and abetting in a crime. And I put the suspect as just the sheriff's office. They must find out who sold the vehicle. I went to the sheriff's office. I gave them a copy of the affidavit. I said, please, I took one of my buddies, a veteran buddy of mine with her. I said, I just want the stamp. And the lady put the stamp so softly, you can only see the date. I said, no, I want a proper stamp. And she slammed it. Sheriff. So up to now, CAS 131 of 5, 2023. No investigating officer. Until Mr. Rood made a lot of noise, because I can't shadow my own case. Mr. Rood is doing that. I do other cases on the other end. Then I was in Pretoria for a specific investigation. A lady phoned me, a female cop, from my house. She's the investigation officer. I thought, gee whiz, but I couldn't remember her name. Then I sent a message. I added it to my phone, and I sent a message. Please send me your details so that I can know who I'm talking with. Nothing. Up to now, nothing. Captain Bona, at length, is the head of Detective Branch, Aberdeen. Sent my docket to DPCI Durban, not Shelley. But at least he did that. But nothing happened. Nothing's happening. And if nothing's going to happen, we, the Hornets, will charge every single cop, every single prosecutor, criminally in the private capacities. It's not a warning, it's a promise.
You are charging them for not investigating, for not doing their job?
Defeating the ends of justice.
Okay.
And aiding and abetting in a crime.
So that process of auctioning your property, it went ahead and...
Seems so.
Yeah.
And seemingly, one of the employees, a lawyer, Strauss Daly, is one of the people that actually bought the house. And that's illegal.
But that's an allegation. You don't have evidence of that.
No, I've got a document.
Oh, okay.
With the two persons that are in cahoots there, but there are fraud cases coming.
Okay.
No,
so that one is lodged. You're just waiting now for the feedback and the progress in terms of that.
I don't think there will be feedback and progress. But
so what are you going to do?
Oh, you'll see next week. There will be cases open against very high-profile people.
Now, here's the question I have for you. You guys, you keep opening cases, and they are not being investigated. There's no movement. There's no process. So what's the point of keep going back and opening cases?
Oh, the very good point is, in warfare, to take out infantry is, I guess it's part of it, but take out the G5 cannons. Take out the big shots. That's what we're going to do. We're going to charge many high-profile people criminally because they're aiding and abetting in crime. So once we do that, the flow will be there. Once we have criminally charged people in high places that no one's ever done before, and I must give all credits to Mr. Rudd. I'm just doing the policing part of it, the drafts of dockets, constructing dockets and so forth. It's all his brainchild. But we're all victims from these banks. And that must stop. And also, Mr. Kiwi's Xhosa family, I'm going to assist him so that family can get their land back where their ancestors are buried.
I'm trying to establish here what can be done because, I mean, hey, we've had enough stories. I can say enough is enough now.
You'll see. I think Mr. Rudd will reveal what's going to happen within the next 30 days. Yes.
So there is hope that something is going to give.
It's going to work.
Something is going to give. Something has to give because, I mean,
I can
the same thing is happening. I mean, your case is recent. You're talking about 2023. I mean, Mr. Roots' case is 2020.
Goes back
2018.
Quite far, yeah. Goes
2018. These are all recent. Now, how about people that were in 2010, 2005, 19, in the 80s?
Okay, unfortunately, at this stage, we need to prioritize because we have a load work, a hell of a lot of work. So unfortunately, this is something, thank you for reminding me. I wrote here, this is when if I'm killed, I'm going to expand on it and I'm going to bring out the whole thing, state security, everything, secret service, everything. To conclude, I do apologize to all other victims for not mentioning their cases because I only mentioned Mr. Kiwi, which I said I'm clearing his name.
Yes.
And if anybody harasses him, they will be charged under Act 17 of 2011. Mr. Lawrence Erasmus' life was destroyed. The NPA must answer there, as well as Mashadador police. And then obviously Mr. Chamberlain, Jenny Chamberlain, Mahindra will have, and that garage, but maybe not Mahindra company, but the dealership, they'll have to answer on that. So, but I apologize to all other victims for not mentioning their cases on this program, since I simply do not have the time. Because it's a limited time. I mean, we can't make the program 5 hours. Nobody will watch it. But if you're, I urge the public of South Africa to stand together because we're also fighting public apathy. People want other people to do it for them. It doesn't work that way. We can't do everything. But I urge people to stand up. Let us know if you are a victim of perceived incompetence, corruption, racism, or any other form of discrimination without probable cause, as set out in the Constitutional Equality Act 4 of 2000. There are many things and events I did not mention in this affidavit due to the Secrecy Act, as well as other reasons. In case I need my end somehow, I pledge the holders of this affidavit to present the contents thereof to open media. So, and I have other things that must also be presented if something happens to me. I'm not the only one. There are people overseas that's also in possession of this. If that's revealed, the country will fall within 1 month. But we do not want to put people in jeopardy. So I guess I'll behave myself.
You hear it, Africa. You will hear it, South Africa. It is here where Eugene is openly saying that you just need to stand together. You need to come together to support the initiatives that they are doing to make sure that anything that has been revealed today is executed right into its fruition. Our motto here, we always say, it's news for people by people. You investigate. Yes.
In Zulu.
Yes. You investigate. You are not investigating it for yourself. We are investigating
I'm not asking
for
money.
the next person to be able to succeed.
I haven't received a cent. I actually spend a lot of money doing these investigations.
But we would like to call out the banks. We like to call out the lawyers, the law firms. We feel as IG World Network that enough is enough.
It's enough.
You can even feel my energy. I get drained every time when I do these stories because they are sickening. It's the time now whereby you look at yourselves. Yes, it was a decent model when you started, but we've caught up with you. Enough is enough. Stop robbing people's hard-earned monies, properties, assets for your unreasonable gains. It is enough. We are calling you all banks in South Africa, in the African continent, that are continuously putting hard-earned resources of citizens in the African continent, South Africa in particular. It's time for Africa for us to wrap up. Adios until next time.